Hi guys, Jody Hand here, Mrs. Hand Painted, and I wanted to share with you today a tutorial using another one of my new handmade watercolor paint sets. This one is called Cottage Christmas. Sorry, the lights are glaring just a little bit there. Okay, and this one features 4 great colors. This is the full pan set, and these are perfect for creating holiday cards with. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you exactly how you can create a really pretty watercolor floral wreath that has evergreen and creamy white roses with gold accents and bright red berries and flowers as well. This color red in here, berry, is absolutely gorgeous, and I am so in love with this red, and I do have some singles of this one available on my shop as well, so you can check the link in the description to get to my Etsy shop, and you can get one of these sets of 4 colors here. It includes a really dark pine green, the bright red berry, which is a single pigment red, and it's nice and transparent and has a really vibrant red color. I would say it's a little more on the warm side, but it is generally neutral, so it's not leaning more toward the orange or the blue. And then I've got creme, which is another single pigment. This is actually buff titanium, but I'm calling it creme because it fit more with the name of the other colors for the set. And then I have a mica pigment, which is an old gold color, so just plain gold. I also have a yellow gold in my shop if you want something a little bit brighter or with the more of that yellow tint to it. So all 4 of those colors, and they come in a set, and I do have a lot of singles of them as well. And if there's a lot of interest in some of those colors, I'll restock some of them. Otherwise, I have another Christmas set coming out in a few weeks, so make sure you check that out and like my shop in Etsy so that you can be updated when I add some new colors for you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the tutorial here, and I'll show you how you can paint this really pretty floral wreath. And it's very similar to the design I did for the front of the tin. Before I forget, we have the half pan set of 4, there's a full pan set of 4, and then I did a few of these just as a little test. They're little 26mm metal tins. They're really flat like this, but they hold about as much paint as a full pan, maybe just a little bit less. So these I don't have in a tin, so they are a little less expensive, but you can get those as well. I have a few of those available in my shop too. So make sure you check that out and have fun painting with me. And if you're watching this more at Christmas time, have a happy holiday.
I'm just going to quickly go over all the supplies here. I'm using, of course, the Cottage Christmas handmade watercolor set that's available in my Etsy shop. Those are paints that I made. You can get those there in my Etsy shop. There's a link in the description. And then I also have a watercolor sketchbook I put together that has Fluid 100 cold press paper in it and my Princeton Neptune round 4 and 8. I just have a little circle template in my drawer here. These are from Simple Stories. I use them for scrapbooking and card making, and I just had that handy, but use whatever circle object you have. And then that is a Faber-Castell water-soluble graphite pencil. So I just made myself a circle, and I'm actually gonna clip my pages down here a little bit because those are popping up. So I just put some binder clips on there really quick there. Um, I'm going to go ahead and start out with the white or the cream colored roses that I want to add in here. So I'm getting some of that creme color, and do not mind the cracked one here. This was the one I kept back and didn't put in the sets because I dropped it on the floor and I cracked it. So they are a little fragile. So with any of your paints, try not to throw them on the floor because they will bust out of their pan sometimes. So that one is now my property, and I'm not selling that one, so I'll use it here for my samples. So I'm just gonna raise that line down a little bit so it's a little more faint. I pressed a little too hard and I made that pretty dark, so I don't want that to show through my cream colored roses. So just want to erase most of that away just so I barely have a line there that I can see for reference for my circle. So I'm using my round size 8, and I'm just going to make with the very point of that brush. I just like using a bigger brush for roses. I'm just making these C-shaped strokes, and I would just go around and make sure I'm overlapping the previous stroke so that I don't have stacked C's. You want them to overlap the intersection of the previous row and just get bigger as you go out. So start out in the middle with a very fine amount of pressure. So you use just that point of your brush. And then as you get out to those other layers, you can apply more pressure with your brush, and then you can get wider petal shapes then for those outer layers. So um, I'm just gonna put a few little roses in there, and then I'm just gonna move to my next color, and I'm switching over to my round size 4 for the rest of this. And this color is berry, and it is a very vibrant, highly pigmented red. It's a single pigment color. It's really, really pretty. In fact, all of the colors in the set are single pigments, actually. So no mixes in this one. It's an all single pigment set. The buff titanium or the creme is pigment white 6-1, and this is pigment red 254. So it does take quite a bit of time to mix up some of these reds. So they are well worth it though. All right, so I'm going to do kind of a peony type flower for these next ones, and I make kind of an oval shape, and then I build my strokes around that. I guess you could say maybe it's like a side view of the rose, but it looks to me kind of peony-like. I don't know. Just kind of a generic flower that I like to do. So I do kind of an oval shape, and then I do some big C-shaped strokes coming off from the side and overlapping over the top, and then I just get smaller and thinner C shapes as I go out to the sides. So, all right. And normally I don't set my pans um, on my palette like this, but I just wanted to show just those colors. Usually I have them in a tin stacked in there, but it looks kind of funny with just um, with all my other colors stacked in there. So I just thought I'd set those there and make it look nicer, but that they move around on me a lot. All right, I'm adding some berries in here now. So I'm just going to do a few little bunches of berries randomly. I'm trying to maybe balance. I'm doing kind of like a triangle of berries. So I have like a triangle of white roses, a triangle of red flowers, and a triangle of um, of the berries. And I try to do kind of groups of 2 or 3 with the berries, just to give it a little bit of interest. I don't want it to be super even. So and I'll just add maybe a couple more little flower buds, maybe just a smaller version of that bigger red flower just to give it a little bit more red on that side. And it's really all about personal preference here. If you are making this on a larger scale, obviously you're maybe going to be adding a lot more flowers in there. So just try to balance it out. And so you have maybe not perfectly even, but if you have a lot of white roses on one side, you'll want to balance that out with a somewhat equal amount so it doesn't look very heavy on one side if you have more red. So I do have a Skillshare class about making fall wreaths, and I do talk a lot about my wreaths for making floral wreaths, some of my tips on creating balance and where you're going to place your elements. So you can check that out on Skillshare. I do have a link for that on my website, mrshandpainted.com, and I'll also put a link in the description of this video. So here I'm just going to add some small little leaf strokes, and this color is called Pine Green. It's another single pigment, pigment green 7. So uh, this one does take a little bit more water to re-wet. So I would maybe recommend putting a few drops of water on the top of it just to get it started. Um, that one in particular, just that particular pigment just takes a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead. I put some little leaves on my red flowers just at the base of them. And I want to get a nice point on my brush to make some little stems. So I kind of press very lightly against the side of my plate to just kind of flatten the bristles of my brush so I can get a nice sharp point. And I'm going to add like kind of some evergreen pieces just around this whole wreath. So trying to use light pressure just to get those nice fine strokes with this round size 4. And if you don't feel super confident using a larger brush, I mean, this is kind of a small to medium round brush, you can grab out a 1 or a 2 to use that. And if you've watched a lot of my other videos, you might know my love for the dagger brush for doing these kind of textures. But I just wanted to show that you can do it with a round brush as well, because I know that is a specialty brush that not a lot of people have in their brush collections. So if you want to check that out, that would be a good brush to do these type of evergreen branches with as well. But I'm just trying to use as light of a touch as possible. And another tip I have for doing this kind of evergreen branch is to make your center stem and then try to do your strokes outward from the center so that they get thinner as you go out. Because most of the time when you're immediately putting your brush down, you're going to have more pressure for the first part of your stroke. And then as you lift away, you're getting a lighter pressure. And to make that look like a more natural, like pine needle, I guess, or an evergreen fir branch, you will want to have that lighter pressure on the outward stroke. And that's sometimes I goof that up and I go the opposite direction by accident because I'm just going too fast and not taking my time. But that's something to try to be conscious of is make your center stroke for your branch, and then you can have your needles coming outward from that and try to do your strokes going out from the center. And if it helps as you work around your wreath to actually just turn your paper so that you can continue doing that, because sometimes it's hard with your hand placement to try and do that same type of a stroke action on the other side, especially if you're going around in a circle and you want your branches to flow a certain direction. So I would definitely recommend just turning your paper to help you with that if you have some trouble. So as you can see here, I'm just making my way around and just adding in those little fur pieces. And I will here get to the gold here at the last step. So we're just gonna go around, add some leaves, and then, sorry, my hand's blocking the view of the brush strokes here, but I kind of hold my brush um, sometimes straight up and down for some of these strokes just so that I can get control doing that light pressure. Because I feel like if I'm coming from the side, I maybe will have too much pressure and then I get really thick pine needles for this. So to maintain that really, really light pressure, I'll go straight up and down. Now I'm just adding a few more basic leaf shapes. And like in some of my other videos, we've talked about making leaves is you start out with light pressure and apply more pressure to your brush to get that wider stroke, and then you go back to light pressure for the point. So that's something to just practice on separate sheets of paper. If you have trouble making leaves, you can just do a whole sheet of leaves for practice sometimes. So something to try out. Here as I'm starting to get more filled in, I want to make sure I'm not really heavy on one side. I think I kind of got carried away there on the left side, and I've got the branches are sticking out a bit further, so it's starting to look a little lopsided. So I can just go ahead and add a little bit more weight on the other side by adding some more branches in there. So here I'm just trying to fill in that middle bottom part. There was kind of a gap. And I can fill in after I get the green in as well. I can just go ahead and add, because I'm going to put like some gold berries and some other little, just some little gold bits in there to bring some sparkle into it. Another thing I kind of recommend to do is just to take a step back sometimes and just look at it, because sometimes you get a little too carried away and then you realize you just packed it too full and you didn't take the time to look. So that's another little tip for my mistakes to for you to learn. Here, this is now this is that gold color, and I was trying to use up the paint that I dripped off the side of the pan here. This is just an extra one that I didn't get quite full enough, so that one's mine again. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and add in some berries, and then I want to also do some strokes over the roses as well, just to kind of brighten those up and give them a little more sparkle. So I'm just kind of following my first row of brush strokes and just adding a little bit of accents. I'm just kind of going along the edge of my cream colored strokes. And it just brightens it up and makes it really pretty and shiny. This is really, really fun if you're going to be painting any Christmas gifts for someone, or you can make this as a decor piece for your home if you want to scale it up and make a bigger wreath. Or if you just want to make little tags, maybe you could make this a little simpler and use just of the few of the elements and make a little, we'll call it a corsage. If you want to just do a cream rose and a red flower and a couple berries and a sprig of evergreen, that would make a really pretty tag for your gifts. Or another card design as well. If you wanted to do multiple cards, you could just do a little floral motif on the side instead of a full wreath. So using some of those same elements that we're painting here, you could do the cream roses with the red flowers and a little branch of berries. So something to try out. And if you do paint anything similar to that, I would really love for you to share it with me. You can tag me on Instagram, Mrs. Hand Painted. And before I finish this off here, I've got my little berries I've added in there. I want to do a little bit of a variation on the green. It'll be really subtle, but I just wanted a little bit different shade of green. So I'm just taking a little bit of that berry, which ends up being quite a lot, even just one stroke of that. So just a little dab of the berry just to darken up the green a little bit more. And then that will give you a little bit of a variation in the shade of green. And I'm just going to go over some of the areas that need a little bit more and just fill in a few more little sprigs of pine needles coming out. And just my personal preference, I really wanted to load this one up, make it really full. So, and like I said, I do notice I got a little carried away there on the left side. I wish I wouldn't have made that one stick out quite so far, but and just add a couple more leaves in the background here. Since this is a very transparent green, you can kind of see the other branches through it. And it's nice to just add a little bit more of a thickness of those bigger leaves in a few places just to fill in some of the really white areas. And I think that is going to do it. I really appreciate you guys checking out my video today, and I love it even more if you want to check out my Etsy store as well. I do have a coupon code that you can use, Paint Launch. It's in the description of the class here or the video as well, so you can use that to get $3 off of off of an order in my shop. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.